Welcome back to the studio. My name is Yaku. Behind the camera, as per usual, is Demaya, and as you can see, I'm a goldsmith. We take something that we've made in the week and we put it online so that if you're curious about this kind of thing, or you're a goldsmith in training, or you are
a goldsmith just open to new ideas, or the same ideas, or on the hunt for fresh ideas. I mean, who knows?
We are growing a small community of people that are like-minded and enjoy this content. We made a platinum ring. Big surprise. Watch until the end. Let me show you what I've done. These are 3 enormous diamonds. Big stones, small finger size. You have to consider that the stones are going to cover most of what you see at the top. I start off by drawing a little design. The design itself tells me that if I'm looking from the top, basically those stones are covering the entire finger. I did this little thing on the side here, which has a little bit of an emphasis on the shank itself. Once I've done the design and I presented that to the customer and everybody's happy to go, I could use this design. I know, for instance, what the thickness of those little bars are going to be and the bottom plate and how wide I want these things to be, because everybody's seen that and it is drawn up to scale. So I use it as a scale reference. These are 3 really large stones that I'm going to be using. I start with the center and I work my way out as per usual, but I make the actual settings that they're going to lie on exactly the same diameter as the actual stone. I use a cone block, the one I've had forever, and I lay the stones down on top of the diameter. And if I do that, I can see exactly what the diameter of the stone is, and then I know where my guidance point is for the actual little bed that I need to make. I then take that and put it onto this block over here, which is how I get them mostly round, a little swage block like that. I then bring it back to the size of the cone that I've chosen to punch them in, and if they're still too big, I actually just use a pair of cutters and I cut them smaller. I'm joining these rings by putting a piece of platinum, really fine piece of platinum in there, and then I'm fusing them together, which means the platinum is going to melt onto the platinum. There's no solder involved yet. This is the best method to put platinum together, because essentially you have absolutely no joining marks. It might sound scary. Once you try it a few times, you get quite used to it and it becomes as natural to you as running solder on a gold ring. And then I use a punch to punch it down and the appropriate cone punch to then open them up. They are going to create a 17.5-degree angle on both sides, which is typically good enough to add onto each other. In this case, obviously because of the size of the stones, we're going to have to revisit that. Now I'm taking a square punch and I'm putting it in the inside and lightly tapping on it. What it does is it's going to give me 4 exact equal corners, and I'm going to take my saw blade and reinforce those corners on the top of the setting itself, and then from there onwards run it down the sides. If a line is slightly out on a long wire, it's going to lean towards the one side and immediately throw the whole job out. Because there's so little to look at on a ring like this, your eye will immediately catch something that's not right. Now my design had 4 claws. Customers might ask for 6 claws as well, which is where you could use a hexagon punch, do exactly the same thing. I've cut the lines through, I'm prepping them with a little parallel phrase, and I'm also measuring to make sure that I'm still on 4. Even though I've made the marks, you know, we're all human, it might be that I'm slightly out. I'm bringing them together, and the reason for this is I told you a little earlier that my angles aren't quite right, but by bringing them together, I can start working on those angles. I turn this piece around, I take my saw blade and I cut through, but not all the way to the bottom, so that I've got a little gap that I can then close down. Brings the angles down. If I'm doing this side, I'm doing that side at the same time, so I'm still controlling the angles, making a little plate at the bottom, which is on the size I want. And I can utilize this little plate and bring the top setting together to make sure that the height is balanced everywhere from the one side to the other side. I don't want there to be a height over here and then dropping down to a little part over here. It needs to be a balance all the way down, so I can control those cuts up until the point where I get the exact angles correct. I'm utilizing little spaces essentially that I'm adding onto the bottom of the ring this side and the bottom of the ring this side. I can now solder those parts together. So now I've got a flat plate with 3 settings on top of it, and now I need to make sure that I can then mirror the top settings to the bottom. This is a fun side of the job because you can cut away the shape from the top. It just needs to mirror all the way down to the bottom plate. It's an angle. You have to kind of visualize this thing as one. You're essentially extracting the shape out of the bottom plate to mirror the top plate, and it makes it look as if those settings have just been split and they continued. Now you can actually make this by actually just splitting them as well, and I know some of you might mention that in the comments, and we have done that before. I've decided to do it in this way because no reason really. I look at the top of the setting over here and I file the bottom away, and as soon as I start touching the setting at the top here, I know I'm exactly flush. We're opening up the settings at the bottom before we do anything wire related on it, like the claws. We've got all this access right now, so we can actually drill the holes and make sure that we've got a divider that will fit all the way around the rounding. Once we put the claws on and we do that, then we've got these claws in the way. So we are going to open them up now, make sure that there's a mirrored wall. So we got the little settings just about ready for the wires now, but I've made the little grooves at the top of the settings. They're not yet made at the bottom. You know, like when you build a house, I see these guys building a house and they put like a wall on top of the roof and they go, oh, this was a wreck and it was a ruin and everything, but it's starting to feel like a house.
Yeah.
It's starting to feel like a ring right now. You've put the hard work in, the claws, you know, is so close to the end, and we're just going to solder them from the bottom independently to the top, obviously, otherwise one part will be loose and we don't want that for the diamonds to fall off. I like bringing the concept of old school jewelry into making jewelry because it makes me feel like there's still some control from the human being to the actual piece of jewelry. So when it comes down to making the shank, it's no different. I can apply a hammer force onto a piece of platinum to manipulate that metal. I'm hammering the flat part of the ring, the bottom part, I'm hammering that flat first, and I'm hammering the top parts to spread out. And once I've got my basic shape and I know I'm at the place where this ring size is going to meet the shank, I can then start making it pretty. Now, as per the design, I'm bringing it out ever so slightly, then I'm bringing it in. Now, that's all hidden. That's all hidden behind the stones because the stones take up the majority of the finger. But what that does, if I bring it out and bring it in, it creates comfort, creates grip with a big ring like this. And then as it comes out towards the bottom, I have these sections at the bottom that gives it that weight balance on the other side as well. Now we start shaping it, and again, this is like working with a bit of clay. While working with it, it almost develops in my hands. The longer you work with it towards a specific goal, the more it starts shaping into what you want. Making sure that you stick with a certain thickness at the bottom and on the sides. You can trace out the sides of this thing and sort of develop it as you're going. This is where balance and flow comes in, and that's where you've got to relay back to your eyes and make sure that you are, as a creator, make sure that it has the most pleasing shape in your mind. But essentially what we're doing is we're creating what we promised for comfort, for practicality, and for mounting these 3 big settings at the top. I place the setting on the sizing stick, and I bring the other part together to make sure that I've got exactly the right size. Now I should mention I work about half a size smaller because there will be some cleaning up on the inside and filing on the inside to make sure everything matches. Solder it together, and by this time it's just a question of refining it. I can now start putting a slight D shape in the inside of the ring. Now I know the size is going to fit over the knuckle, I know that the diameter is going to fit the finger. What I'm going for now is comfort. I want it to feel comfortable in every way. I want the ring to feel like it's a glove. Even if it's this bulky and this big, I want it to feel and make sure that it's as comfortable and as soft on the finger as possible. Once I've done with the shaping, which I'm doing with a half round file, nothing aggressive, and I'm only doing the bottom section, so I'm just sort of touching it slightly at an angle And then once I've done that, I go another angle above that and another angle below it, and then I join that together. Something I can add, because these stones, and especially you can do this with any stones, obviously it's a good practice as well, but these stones are so big, so the facets are so massive. I make sure before I seat the stone that all my facets are lined up. So if I've got a facet coming down in a corner over here, I try and get the other corner of the next stone to match up with that, and it just gives you neatness, it gives you balance. It's not necessarily something your customer is even going to pick up, but it makes me feel that I've put everything I possibly can in, and I've given this ring everything I possibly can give. It's a lot of fun to work with diamonds this side. We're quite familiar with it. I'm getting so comfortable with platinum over the years now that it's almost like a friend to me. I got a really high polish out of it. I've got all the detail that I possibly wanted out of it. I was really proud of it. Sometimes you don't want to see them go because you just want to sort of hang on to them a little bit, I guess.
Yes, it's a bit like even a painting. What do they say? But painting's never finished.
Yeah.
Does anybody say that? I think they do.
I think they say it's that an artist is never finishes a job, they merely abandon it. So by the point of abandonment,
yeah,
you have to let it go. Thank you very much for watching this video. Up until this point, we had such good fun with these big diamonds. In one of our next videos, this is a 9-carat natural diamond, the emerald cut diamond, one of the best I've ever seen. We're going to give it a home in platinum and surrounded with some other diamonds. If you hit the bell icon, subscribe and share these videos, this is the kind of content that you can look forward to seeing. From the mind myself, till next week, cheers, bye.
Bye.
Bye.